When your toddler pulls your hand toward the fridge instead of pointing, you think that's independence. But that tiny gesture you see every day can signal communication pathways aren't connecting as they should. What makes this unsettling is it doesn't look like a problem at all. It looks like personality. Most parents assume developmental delays announce themselves dramatically. Something unmistakable, something obviously wrong. The truth is, the earliest signs hide in plain sight. During meal times, playtime, and everyday moments. If you've ever felt something's different but couldn't name it, you might be noticing something genuinely real. Today I'll walk you through 10 invisible patterns developmental specialists watch for that most parents completely miss. Here's what most parents don't realize. When watching for developmental concerns, you're looking for the wrong thing. Parents scan for red flags and unusual behaviors, things that look wrong and stand out visually. But research shows early developmental delays are invisible because they're absences, missing pieces in a puzzle. Your child's brain develops like a symphony, where every section must learn to play together in sync. The communication section must sync with motor skills. Sensory processing must coordinate with social engagement constantly. When one instrument comes in late or not at all, the whole piece sounds slightly off to listeners. You can't hear what isn't there. You only hear what is. That's the core challenge for parents. I'll show you not what your child does that concerns you, but what they're not doing yet. These aren't personality traits, they're developmental gaps. Once you know where to look, you'll see them. Sign 1. Lack of pointing or gesturing. Does your child point? Not grab, not reach, but point with intention. Pointing seems too simple to matter, but neurologically it's extraordinary. It requires your child to understand a lot. Your 14-month-old must understand you exist as a separate mind who can see what they see and help. This is called joint attention, and it's the foundation of every single conversation your child will ever have. Watch this. Your toddler wants crackers on the counter. Do they point and look at you, or just cry? Do they grab your hand and use it like a tool, treating you as an extension of their body? That difference between pointing and hand leading is everything developmentally. It signals distinct brain processes at work. Try this today. Place 2 appealing snacks just out of reach. Wait, don't offer, just observe your child. A typically developing 15-month-old will point, make eye contact, and vocalize, actively recruiting your help. If your child consistently bypasses pointing even after 15 or 16 months, that's your first invisible sign. Sign 2. Limited eye gaze to share attention. Your child makes eye contact, but that's not the issue here. There's a specific type of eye contact most parents never think about. It's called referential looking. Referential looking separates true communication from simply being in the same room as another person. Think about this. You and a partner watch TV. Something shocking happens. You immediately look at each other, not because you need to, you both saw it, but because humans are wired to share experiences together. That microglance says, "Are you seeing this?" Babies start doing this naturally around 9 to 10 months. They look at a toy, then at you, then back at the toy. That triangle is their very first conversation. Without that triangle, language development stalls because every word is anchored in shared focus between 2 people. Here's what it looks like when it's missing. You read together, your child turns pages but never glances up at you. They're engaged with the book but not with you. No shared excitement, no checking your reaction at all. Tonight, try this. Hold a favorite toy near your face. Watch their eyes. Do they shift between toy and your eyes? If that gaze triangle is missing, especially after 12 months. You are seeing sign number 2 clearly. Sign 3. Overly quiet or independent play. This one often gets celebrated by parents as a wonderful gift. She plays by herself for 45 minutes. He's so focused, never needs me. Parents say this constantly and proudly. Independent play is healthy and important, but there's a version of it that looks like a gift when it's actually a gap. A child stacks blocks for 30 minutes straight, focused, clearly bright, but never once glances up at you. No glance of pride, no checking whether you're watching. That's not deep focus, that's a missing social bridge. When your child plays alone, do they ever check in with you? A quick look, a smile, bringing something to show? Join their play tomorrow, just sit nearby. Do they hand you a block, show you their creation, or ignore you? Sign 4. Avoiding or resisting new sensory experiences. Picture a birthday party with a bounce house and pure chaos. Every kid is screaming with joy, but your child stands frozen at the entrance, hands over both ears. Or they're in full meltdown because someone handed them a cupcake and now there's frosting on their fingers. You apologize to other parents. You make excuses. You think, they've always been this way. Maybe they're just sensitive. But consistent, intense avoidance of textures, sounds, or sensations can signal differences in how the brain processes sensory information. Sensory processing is deeply connected to motor development, language, and social engagement, all at the same time. Think about the ripple effect. If touching Play-Doh feels overwhelming, they won't explore it at all. If messy hands cause distress, they avoid activities that are essential for building fine motor skills. The avoidance isn't the problem. It's the barrier creating other developmental problems downstream for your child. Watch for patterns this week. Offer 2 different textures during play, something smooth and something rough. Do they explore both? Avoid one entirely? React with distress? One preference is personality. A pattern is data. Sign 5. Limited imitation of sounds or movements. When you clap, does your child clap back at you? When you wave bye-bye, do they mirror it? When you make a silly face, do they try to copy you? Imitation isn't just adorable. It's how the brain builds its entire social operating system from the ground up. Mirror neurons fire when your child watches you act, preparing their brain to do exactly the same thing. This is how they learn language, gestures, social rules, and empathy through watching and mirroring others around them. By 12 months, most children imitate simple actions. By 18 months, they copy sounds, words, and expressions constantly. When imitation is limited, it's not stubbornness. It signals that mirror neuron networks may need support and attention. This week, try 3 things. Clap in front of them, wave with exaggerated movement, make an obvious surprised face. Watch what happens. Do they mirror spontaneously? Mirror with a delay? Or not at all? That's your data. Sign 6. Difficulty transitioning between activities. She just doesn't like change. He's always been stubborn like this. I hear this from parents constantly. It feels like personality. It feels like willfulness. But here's what's actually happening. Executive function and cognitive flexibility are still under construction. The brain is actively building the ability to shift gears. The ability to shift mental gears, to let go of one thing and move to another, requires developing neural pathways. When transitions trigger meltdowns every time, bath to pajamas, play to dinner, screens off, that's not defiance. That's a developing brain struggling with flexibility, not a character flaw, not a parenting failure either. You might think, every toddler hates transitions, and you're right, to a degree. But the difference is intensity. Typical toddlers protest transitions. They recover within minutes, often with some gentle redirection from a parent. But when flexibility is genuinely challenging, the emotional response is more intense and much longer in duration. Longer crying, harder to soothe, sometimes taking 15 to 20 minutes or more to fully recover and regulate. Here's what to observe. Give a 2-minute warning before the next transition, then a 1-minute warning right after. Does the warning help at all, or does the meltdown happen regardless of how much preparation you provide? If warnings consistently make no difference, that's the pattern to note and bring to a professional evaluation. Sign 7. Unusual play patterns. This sign often looks like something to brag about in front of other parents. He lines up his cars perfectly, so organized. She sorts everything by color. She'll be an engineer. Maybe she will be. But here's what I need you to understand about how healthy play actually develops over time. Typical play moves from exploring objects to using them functionally, to using them symbolically as children grow. The block becomes a phone, the car drives to grandma's house, the stuffed animal gets sick and needs medicine. Symbolic play is where language explodes, empathy develops, and creativity takes deep root in a child's mind. When play stays repetitive, lining up, sorting, spinning wheels instead of driving cars, the brain signals something. The brain may be seeking predictability in a way that signals delayed symbolic development. Not wrong, but worth noticing. Try this during play. Say, "Oh no, the car is stuck in mud. What should we do?" Then wait. Do they engage with the pretend scenario, build on it, or look confused and return to lining up cars? Sign 8. Inconsistent response to their name. They hear me when they want to. Parents say this all the time. Yes, toddlers are selectively attentive. That's normal. But here's the critical distinction you must understand. There's a difference between hearing your name but ignoring the request versus not registering your name at all. Inconsistent name response can signal differences in auditory processing or social engagement in your developing child. Here's how to test it. When your child is calmly playing, stand behind them and say their name once. Use a normal volume. Try it 5 times over different days. Do they turn and acknowledge you each time? If they respond maybe once or twice out of 5, and it's not during high-focus moments, note that pattern. One critical note. Before you worry about brain development, get their hearing checked by a professional first. Fluid in the ears can make a child hear as if underwater, which mimics this sign perfectly and completely. Sign 9. Delayed physical milestones paired with social differences. Most parents track physical milestones very carefully, but here's the connection most people miss. Motor development and communication development share the same neural pathways. They're wired into the same parts of the brain. Motor and communication delays don't occur in separate silos. When a child is late to work and limited in gestures, that combination matters more than either sign standing alone. Late coordination and slow social engagement. Delayed fine motor skills and reduced eye contact. These patterns combine. Alone, each sign might be nothing. Together, they form a pattern that deserves professional attention and evaluation. Watch your child during chasing games, dancing together, rolling a ball back and forth between the two of you. How do the physical and social pieces fit together? Is one significantly lagging behind the other in your child? Sign 10. Relying on you to interpret needs without trying themselves. This might be the most invisible sign of all. It's hidden inside your competence as a parent. You've learned to read your child perfectly. Every grunt, every look. You anticipate needs before they're expressed. You've become fluent in a language that doesn't require them to communicate. That's not failure. That's love adapting. But here's the flip side of that beautiful parenting instinct. When a child consistently uses your body as a tool, pulling your hand toward what they want, specialists have a name for it. Hand leading suggests that expressive communication strategies haven't developed the way specialists would typically expect. Not pointing, not vocalizing, not looking at you, then the object, just pulling. That's the pattern to watch. Try this. When you know exactly what they want, pause. Create a small gap before giving it to them. Do they attempt anything in that gap? A sound, a gesture, a glance at your face? Or simply wait? That gap is where communication should emerge. If it doesn't, even after several seconds, take note of that. Now, if you recognize your child in 3, 4, or even 7 of these signs, I need you to hear this. You haven't failed. Your child isn't broken. Noticing these patterns is what attentive, engaged parenting actually looks like. A consistent pattern in early intervention research. The parents who feel most guilt act the fastest and most effectively. They beat themselves up for missing signs that developmental specialists know are specifically designed to be invisible. You didn't miss them, you just didn't know they existed. Now you do. That changes everything going forward. So here's what happens next. I want to be specific. First, document patterns over the next 2 full weeks. Not isolated moments, patterns. Context matters. Does this happen every time, or only when they're tired or overwhelmed? Second, if you're seeing 3 or more signs consistently, request a developmental screening, not just a regular pediatrician visit. Ask for a referral or contact your local early intervention program directly. You can do this yourself as a parent. In the US and many other countries, these evaluations are often free or fully subsidized for children under 3. Third, remember that early support isn't about fixing deficits. It's about building bridges in your child's brain. Building bridges exactly when those connections are most flexible, in the window between 18 months and 3 years. That window is when intervention makes the most profound and lasting difference for your child's developing brain. You're not overreacting. You're being proactive. Those are 2 very different things, and you're doing the right one. You now understand the 10 invisible patterns most parents completely overlook. You know what absence looks like in development. You know how to observe without panic. You know the difference between personality and a developmental gap. But knowing the signs creates a new problem. What do you actually do about them after you recognize them? Because your instinct right now is probably to buy something. Developmental toys, sensory tools, educational products that promise to build these skills. And that's exactly where most parents sabotage progress without realizing it. There are 7 products sitting in millions of homes right now that actually interfere with the development you're trying to support. Products that look helpful but create the opposite effect. Interfering rather than building the skills your child needs. I break down all 7 in a separate video. Watch it before you buy anything. You're already doing the hard part.